from last lecture or anything else you would like to discuss before we get started? Okay, I'm just going to get my water bottle so that I don't have to keep going there. Give me a second. Hi. Okay. So, are there any questions or shall we get started? All right. There seem to be no questions. So, let's jump into it. So, at the end of last lecture, there was a bit of a discussion. Let's see. At the end of last lecture, there was some discussion related to one of the things we discussed. So what we discussed was that to prove that the graph is, to prove that when you add an open ear to the graph H and you get another graph G, then the resulting graph is also two vertex connected. So H is two vertex connected. We want to prove that G is also two vertex connected. And so one strategy of proving it is to first add an edge between the two vertices. So you add an edge here. You show that adding an edge preserves the two connected property. And the second step is to show that subdividing an edge. So what does subdivision mean? If this is an edge of a graph, you put one more vertex here. Then you put another vertex. You keep subdividing the edge. And this procedure also preserves the two connectivity of the graph. So at the end of the lecture, somebody asked, what if the two vertices are already adjacent? Supposing U and V are already adjacent in the graph, then can we add another edge between them? So actually, yes, in this particular way of proving the theorem, you need to allow adding a multiple edge, or what is called a parallel edge. Parallel edge is also called multiple edge. And in fact, if you pick up any graph theory textbook, they generally allow a graph to have loops. A loop is something that looks like this, an edge whose u is equal to v. And they also allow parallel or multiple edges. So two vertices joined by more than one edge, right? So in general, graphs can have loops and parallel edges. But in this course, we will generally not require loops and parallel edges, generally. Especially in the next two modules, especially in planarity and also in matchings, we will not require loops and parallel edges because they don't add anything interesting to the problem. But sometimes it is useful to allow parallel edges, and connectivity is one example. So actually everything we discussed in this course so far, you can allow parallel edges, and almost everything we discussed just goes through without any complications. But there are some things you have to be careful about. So I'm just going to point out some things you need to be careful about. Okay. So for example, if this is my graph, UVWX. So can I say that UVW, remember what is a cycle? You can view a cycle as an ordered sequence of vertices. For example, UVW is a cycle. But now there is a problem, because what do you mean by VW? There are two different edges. So you can't anymore say that a sequence of vertices defines a cycle uniquely. You actually view a cycle, you have to view a cycle as a set of edges. Otherwise, it is ambiguous. Otherwise, it can be ambiguous. Right? So if you want to be precise, as you should be, then you need to be careful that a cycle, when you allow parallel edges, is not just an ordered sequence of vertices, it is a set of edges, right? There are similar subtle things. Supposing I say G plus ux. Well, G plus ux means I add an edge between G and between the two vertices U and X. But what if I say G plus uv? Now U and V are already adjacent. So in this case, my interpretation is you add another edge joining the two vertices. And if I say G minus uv, then if there are P edges, you remove one of the edges, right? So you also have to be careful. These notations are slightly ambiguous. And so they need clarification. You need to clarify what these notations mean. Okay? To resolve these issues, most graph theory textbooks, what they do is they think of a graph as a set of vertices and a set of edges, E1, E2, E3, so on. And what they do is they define a function phi from E to V cross V. So each edge tells you what are the two ends of that edge. And so now this way you can avoid the confusion. Now you can have two different edges, for example, E1 and E2, and phi of E1 is equal to VW, and phi of E2 is also in this case equal to VW. But I honestly don't like to make things so complicated. That is one of the main reasons I try my best to stick to simple graphs. So during our discussions, I am going to refer to simple graphs, which basically means that we will not allow loops and parallel edges. But in the case of connectivity, you can actually allow parallel edges, and all the discussions we have had so far, they just go through. Another thing I should point out, when you allow parallel edges, a cycle can be length 2. This is also a cycle. But when you don't allow parallel edges, the minimum length of a cycle is 3. Okay? So there are some subtle differences, but most of the things, I think everything we have discussed so far in this course, it just goes through if you allow parallel edges. But you just have to be careful with some of your notation. You have to explain what it means. Okay? Are there any questions about this discussion? Any questions? Also, in your assignments, you can generally assume that graphs are simple. So you won't be penalized for assuming that a graph is simple. Okay? So you can write your solutions either for graphs with multiple edges. Such graphs are called multi-graphs. So we don't allow loops. Throughout this course, we will never allow loops. So you can either assume your graph is multi-graph with multiple edges or parallel edges, or you can assume your graph is simple. And both of these will be acceptable solutions. Okay? Good. Okay, so now there is one last thing I want to discuss in connectivity, and after that we will move on to planarity. And this last topic, let me just take a look. Right, so I want to discuss the block tree of a graph. So we have been using this word decompositions, right? Ear decompositions. So what is a decomposition? I mean, vaguely speaking, a decomposition is a way of breaking a graph into smaller graphs, or it is a way of sort of building a graph from smaller pieces. That is the rough definition or the rough meaning behind the usage of the word decomposition in graph theory. Okay? And also for that matter in English, when you decompose something, you break it into smaller pieces. Okay, so this is a different kind of decomposition. This is a different type of decomposition of connected graphs using cut vertices. Okay. So supposing you have a graph that is not too connected. I'll give you one example. Then what can it look like? Let me give you one example here. Okay. So here is a graph that is not too connected. Two vertex connected, right? Okay. So what are the cut vertices? Can someone tell me how many cut vertices are there in this graph? Can someone tell me how many cut vertices are there in this graph? I don't want to know which ones, just the number of them.
Four.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see one more, or is it 4? Someone
It's
says
five.
5. Right. Okay. So you agree it's 5. So there are 5 cut vertices here, right? Good. So one of them is here. Actually, let me not use red color. I want to use something else. Okay, I'll just paint them black. So this is one black vertex. This is a cut vertex. This is a cut vertex. This one is a cut vertex. And this one is a cut vertex. Okay. Good. And you see what is happening is these cut vertices, if you try to think of the graph by breaking along these cut vertices, then you will get some pieces. I will make everything rigorous, but let's just do things a bit vaguely for now. So this is going to be one piece of the graph. You can think of this as another piece of the graph. This is another piece of the graph. Let's use more colors. This is yet another piece of the graph. Yet another piece of the graph. And repeat colors. I'm running out of them. One more. And apparently I've also changed the thickness. So you can think of the graph as formed of so roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces here. Okay. So let's try to make this formal. Okay. So what exactly is going on here? These pieces are called the blocks of a graph. And so I want to put down the formal definition of a block. A block of a connected graph G is a, so what is happening? Can someone tell me what these pieces, what are the properties of these pieces? Especially these two big pieces, this one and this one.
They don't have a cut vertex.
They don't have a cut vertex. Exactly. And that basically makes these graphs too connected, right? Are all of these pieces two connected graphs, or are there some pieces that are not two connected graphs? I would like to claim that all of the pieces, all of these blocks, all of these pieces that I colored are two connected. Is that true statement? What about this piece? Is it a two connected graph?
Yes, yes.
Are you sure? One of the properties of k connected graph is that the number of vertices should be at least k plus 1, right? So there are some pieces that are two connected graphs and the others are k2. Some of the blocks are two connected graphs and the others are k2. K2 is not two connected because number of vertices is less than 3. Okay. So what is going to be a block? A block of a connected graph is a maximal subgraph. Maximal subgraph H such that H is either two connected or H is K2. In a lot of graph theory textbooks, you will see the following usage. It is isomorphic to K2. I will not be using this. I will just say that the graph is K2. Okay. Isomorphic just means that it looks like K2. So that is the formal rigorous way of saying that two graphs are the same, right? But I'm not going to use this term in this course. I will generally just say that the graph is K2. And what I mean is, as per the graph theory textbooks, it is isomorphic to K2. Okay. So these are maximal subgraphs. So to give you an example, in this particular graph, if you think of this triangle is also a two connected subgraph, but it is not maximal because you can add more things to it and preserve the property of two connectivity. But now you cannot add anything more to it. So this makes it a maximal two connected subgraph, right? So we have discussed the word maximal before and we are seeing it come up again, right? So now this is a maximal two connected subgraph. In the case of K2, you can't add anything more to make it two connected because there is a cut vertex here. And so we are going to allow K2 to be a block by itself. Okay. And the reason this is happening is because of this condition that a two connected graph needs to have at least 3 vertices. So we need to make an exception for the graphs that do not have 3 vertices, right? And in that case, the only interesting thing is when the graph has 2 vertices, because if the graph has just 1 vertex, then you can just expand it to become K2. Okay. So is the definition clear? So the point is that, so I want to write down a proposition and I will not, I mean, I will prove it, I think, yeah, I will prove it. So, yeah, I think I want to prove this one. For a connected graph, G of order, so order means number of vertices is at least 2, order 2 or more. So often in graphs you use the word order. Order is number of vertices and size is number of edges. Okay. For a connected graph of order 2 or more, the following statements hold. The first statement is that any 2 blocks as defined here, any 2 blocks have at most 1 vertex in common. So now what we are now observe in this drawing, if you look at all the colors, I mean, I'm repeating some colors, but if you look at any edge of the graph, it is contained in exactly 1 block. However, a vertex can be contained in as many blocks as possible, right? But if you look at any edge of the graph, it is contained in exactly one block of the graph. So that is actually not a coincidence. The blocks of G viewed as edge sets partition. So what does partition mean? Can someone tell me what partition means?
Mutually disjoint and exhaustive set.
Exactly, that's right. So let's make a drawing. Each cycle of G is contained in precisely one block of G. Okay, so what is a partition? So if I give you any set, a partition is something like this. You break the set into mutually exclusive subsets that cover the entire set. So this big set has been broken into 6 subsets, right? And every element is exactly in one subset. Yeah, that is it. Each element of S belongs to precisely one set among the parts. So these S1 to S6, S1 to S6 are called the parts of the partition. Okay, so that's just a standard mathematical terminology. Okay, so what this statement is saying is that if you think of the blocks of the graph as sets of edges, so think of each block as a set of edges, right? So this block here, let's see, it's let me give numbers to each of them: B1, B2, B3, B4. This is B5, the yellow one. This is B6, and this is B7. If you look at any block, if you look at any edge, it is in exactly one block, right? And so you can think of each block as just a set of edges, and that will define a subgraph, right? If you have a set of edges, then you just get a subgraph by taking those edges and all the vertices that are part of those edges. Okay? Okay, so let's prove this statement. I think I will prove part 1 rigorously, and the rest I will So what are we proving in the first statement? Let's look at this drawing. Any two blocks, if you take any two blocks, there is at most one vertex in common. So why is this happening? Supposing there are two blocks, let's make a vague diagram. Supposing this is one block, and supposing there is, let's say, another block, let's say red colored. And let's say they meet in two vertices. Okay, so at least two vertices, V1 and V2. Okay. So let's say B1 and B2. Assume that B1 and B2 are two distinct blocks that meet as an intersect in at least two vertices. Okay, say V1 and V2. Can anybody tell me how we will proceed to complete the proof? How do we proceed to complete the proof here? Remember the definition of a block. A block is a maximal subgraph that is either two connected or is isomorphic to K2.
So by the definition of a block, each block is connected. So there
Right.
must exist a path from V1 to V2 in the second block as well.
Okay.
And that may or may not intersect with some other edges of the original block, but we can definitely construct an extra path from V1 to V2, and that would contradict the maximality of the two connectedness of B1.
How would it contradict?
Because if we add that's adding another path from V1 to V2 is like adding an open ear. And
I see. I see. I see. Okay. This is very interesting. So you are saying that B1 is a two connected graph, but because B2 is two connected, I should also be able to find a path from V1 to V2 in B2.
yes,
And now I can add this ear to B1 and get a bigger two connected graph.
yes.
That's right. Okay, so that is actually completely different from the proof I had in mind, but that is the proof I'm going to write down now. Does everybody agree? So B1 is two connected. And who was that? I am not looking at the screen.
It's me, Samuel.
Samuel. Right. So what Samuel is suggesting, we know that B1 is two connected, right? By definition of a block, or it is just an edge, right? That's another possibility we need to take into account. So let's look at two possibilities. B1 is two connected, or B1 is K2, right? So let's deal with the two cases separately, okay? So in the first case, if it is two connected, well, the point is B2 is also a two connected graph, or it is K2. If it is K2, then just add the edge V1, V2. So if B2 is two connected or K2, in either case, B2 is connected, which implies that there exists a path P in B2 joining U and V, right? And so what Samuel is saying, that now consider B1 plus P, right? So this, we have a two connected graph. Now we are adding an open ear, and this implies that B1 plus P is also two connected. This contradicts maximality of B1, right? Does everybody follow this part? We have a two connected graph. We are adding an open ear to it. We must get a bigger two connected graph, but that would contradict the maximality of the original two connected graph, B1. I would actually say this is a simpler proof than what I had in mind. Given that we have already spent so much time on ear decompositions, this is actually much easier to follow, I think. What about the K2 case? Can somebody tell me what happened in K2 case? Anyone? Oh, I see. Hello? Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
So was my voice breaking at some point?
Yes.
Okay, so was it for others also, or was it just for Dev?
For others also.
Okay, okay, thanks. So what I have done is I have switched to my Wi-Fi. Apparently the Wi-Fi has been really bad since yesterday. So I was using my data, but now I've switched to Wi-Fi on one of my systems. So are there parts I should repeat? Can Shantini or Govind tell me what parts I should repeat? Can someone tell me what parts I should repeat? Oh, okay, it was mostly clear. Okay, okay, fine. So, good. Is the first argument clear? What about the second case? Supposing B1 is K2. Can someone tell me what we do in this case?
Take two cases for B2 and contradict. In one case, it contradicts the maximality of B2. In other case, it contradicts.
There's a lot of noise at your end. I can't hear. A lot of background noise.
Sir, if B1 is K2, we can just begin the proof with B2 in the first place, right? So that could also work. Both can't be K2, otherwise it will be a multigraph.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right. If both are K2, then again, it's actually easy because this is a two connected graph. So if both of them are K2, then you can just say that again, B1 plus B2 is a two connected graph. So if you are dealing with multigraphs, the proof still goes through. If you are dealing with simple graphs, then you get a contradiction, right?
So
But
that's
let's
still not
suppose-
two connected, right? It doesn't have three vertices.
Oh, right. That's right. Okay. 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 Right. So if you're dealing with multigraphs, then you have to allow the graph to be K2 with multiple edges. Yeah. So let's not go there. Yeah. If you are dealing with multigraphs in this case, then you have to change the definition of a block and allow a block to be K2 with multiple edges. So in this case, you have to allow K2 with multiple edges if you are dealing with multigraphs, and then you will get a contradiction to maximality. Okay. So I will just write down, this is for multigraphs. Okay. But if we are dealing with simple graphs, then you would just get a contradiction. Another way to think about it is to do exactly what Samuel did. Again, use the same argument. Basically, you use the same argument. B2 is still 2 connected or K2. So you can again find a path P in B2. And now B1 plus P2, B1 plus P, now it looks like a cycle. Either it could be a cycle of length 2 in the case of a multigraph, or it could be a longer cycle. So now this is B1 plus B2, and this is 2 connected because it is a cycle. So this is the, so maybe I should write it like this. This is B1 and this is the path P. So B1 plus P is 2 connected. And again, you get the same contradiction. This contradicts the maximality of B1. Right? So in both cases, basically Samuel's argument works. Right?
Sir?
Okay. Yeah.
In the first case, I think there's some more points actually we might have to mention, because P might not be
What is-
completely disjoint from B1.
Oh no, but B2 itself is a 2 connected graph, right? Oh, I
Yeah.
see. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Give me a second. That is true. That is true. That is true. What Samuel is saying is that we have to be more careful. So what could happen is, this is B1, and we know that there are 2 vertices in common, but there could be more vertices in common. So what could happen in this path is that this path, yeah, the drawing is a misleading drawing. That is the problem. So that is why we have to be more careful. So what could happen is something like this. This could be B2. And now the path could go between B1 and B2 like this. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So how do we deal with this?
But then wouldn't we have more than two vertices common?
Right, but we don't have a, so we are assuming that they have at least two vertices in common.
At least, okay.
Yeah. So how do we get a contradiction now?
Sir, aren't the edges disjoint between the two sets?
We haven't proved that yet. That is the second part. We haven't proved this part yet. Right? We haven't proved it yet. So now what do we do, Samuel? You have any suggestions?
So if along that path there's at least one edge that's not completely in B1,
Yeah.
then we can say that adding that edge increases the maximality of two connectedness for B1.
I see.
But there's still a possibility that the entire path is contained within B1.
And then what would we do?
Then I have to think.
Okay. So yeah, so it's good. Actually, I like this discussion because what happened is we thought that we had a correct proof, or at least I did think at some point, and then we ran into a problem, right? So this proof seems to not work right now, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
We can start with any vertex and we can go till the first place where we cross between the two sets, and that can be chosen as the second point, and we can find a path from U to V, and that can be a year to V2.
I see.
Still, yeah.
Okay. I see. That is actually a good point. So I think we can fix this proof. I think you're right. We can fix it. So let's look at this path P, right? This path P starts at some vertex in B2, let's say U. If the first edge is already in, let me think. What if the very first edge is in B1? Right, I don't see how to fix it because, yeah. Supposing the first edge we find, U, first edge itself belongs to B1. Then what is the contradiction? I think I know. Okay, I think we can fix it. Okay, here is a way to fix it. Okay, we can fix this argument. Let's do it. We know that this path, so P is a path that starts in at U, starts at vertex U, and ends at vertex V, right? Let's see.
So let's for now assume that there exists some edge E in P that's not in B1.
Okay.
Let's say edge E is has vertices XY.
Uh-huh.
Then if you look at the path as an ordered sequence of edges and vertices, there must be one vertex, either X or some vertex before it, which is the latest vertex in B1 along that path before X.
Okay.
Similarly, there's a first vertex that starts at Y or after, which is a point on B1. So let's say those two vertices were, say, X prime and Y prime. Then there exists an open year X prime to Y prime, which is the subset of the path P.
Okay. I see. Yeah, so let's do one thing. In the interest of time and in the interest of not making too much of a confusion, let's do the following. Why don't one of you, maybe Samuel or anyone, why don't one of you write up or collaborate with another person and write up a proof and send it to me, and I will include this proof in the notes as well, if you like, or we can just discuss it offline, right? So it seems that it seems to all of us, or at least to some of us, And I think the same way, that there is a way to rescue this proof. And perhaps you already have it, but I don't want to make it too complicated right now. So let's do the following for now. Let's just sketch a proof that I know for a fact is correct because I prepared it offline. And then let's discuss this offline and send me a write-up. What do you think? Does that sound good?
Sure, sir.
Okay, good. So we will come back to, so we need to fix this proof, right? We need to fix this proof strategy. Okay, so let's do an alternative proof. Alternative proof. So this is really important because the thing is there are many ways to prove a statement. And when you are working on an assignment, just because you have a certain way of proving something and another friend of yours who might be collaborating with you has a different way of proving it, doesn't mean that one or the other is wrong, right? So this is something worth keeping in mind, that a statement can have lots of different proofs, right? And so don't give up on your ideas. Try to pursue them and try to make them work as far as possible. Okay, so let's go back to our original drawing. So B1 and B2 are two blocks that have at least two vertices in common, V1 and V2, and there could be more vertices in common. So this is a slightly misleading drawing, right? But I'm not going to use the assumption that there are only two vertices. So B1 and B2 are two blocks that have at least two vertices in common. Okay? Good. So what we will prove is, we will actually contradict the maximality. So the idea is to contradict maximality of B1 and also of B2 by proving or by showing that B1 union B2 is two connected. Right? These are two different blocks. So the union is definitely bigger than each of them. It cannot be the case that B1 union B2 is exactly equal to B1 or is exactly equal to B2, because that would mean that B1 is equal to B2. And these are two distinct blocks, so they are not the same, right? Okay, so how do we prove that the graph is two connected? Well, we just argue, let V be any vertex of B1 union B2. Okay? In fact, let me use some notation. V be any vertex of B where B is B1 union B2. Right? So what is the graph B1 union B2 minus the vertex V? This graph, I claim, is the same as B1 minus V union B2 minus V. If you take the union and then delete the vertex V, that is the same as first deleting the vertex V from each of them and then taking the union of these two subgraphs. Okay? But this graph is connected. Why? Because B1 is 2 connected, or otherwise B1 is K2, in which case if you delete one vertex, you still have a connected graph. So this is connected and this is connected. And by our assumption, they have at least two vertices in common. So if two subgraphs are connected and they have at least one vertex in common, then the whole graph is also connected. Since B1 and B2 have at least two vertices in common, B1 minus V and B2 minus V. So V is any vertex. Maybe I should be careful here. Yeah, this is V1, V2. Okay. So it's important to realize that V is not necessarily the same as V1 or V2, right? V is just some vertex in B. So B1 and B1 minus V and B2 minus V have at least one vertex in common. This implies that B1 minus V, this implies that B1 union B2 minus V, which is the same as this guy, is also connected. This implies that B1 union B2 is 2 connected, or K2. And this contradicts the maximality of B1 and of B2. So this proves statement 1. Okay? Does everybody follow this proof?
We also have to prove that if we remove V1 and V2, the graph is still connected, right?
Why do we need to prove that?
I mean, you're trying to show that if you remove any vertex, the graph is connected. That's why it's
Yeah. So V is any vertex. So V is any vertex of B. It could be V1 or V2.
Okay.
Not
it.
necessarily the same.
Okay.
Right? So V could be V1 or V2. And so we have shown it for all vertices of B that when you delete the vertex, the graph is connected. Right? So we have proved part 1. Parts 2 and 3 are actually very easy from part 1. They're actually 2-line proofs. So these 2 are actually quite easy. And I will leave that as an exercise. Use part 1 if necessary, and it is an exercise. Okay? There is just one last thing I want to discuss before we finish this lecture. Are there any more questions? Are there any questions about what we proved? Shefali?
Actually, yeah. Actually, what is K2? I missed that part because of network problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So K2 is yeah, maybe I have not discussed this notation. So right. So let me take this opportunity to discuss the complete graphs. So just like we have discussed cycle graphs, there is an important class of graphs called complete graphs. This is K1, this is K2, this is K3, this is K4, and so on. So what does it mean? It's a graph where each vertex is connected to every other vertex. So a complete graph is a simple graph with n vertices and n choose 2 edges. Any 2 vertices are connected. So K2 is this graph. And the reason we have to make an exception for K2 is because K2 is not 2 connected, right? Remember that K2 is not 2 connected because for 2 connectivity, the number of vertices has to be at least 3. And so we need to make a special case in the block decomposition for 2 connected for K2, right?
Yes.
Okay. There is one last thing I want to mention really quickly, but I will include this in the type notes today itself. So based on this, you can actually make a tree out of this graph. So you can make a block tree graph. You can make a graph out of bipartite graph out of this block cut tree of a graph. So what you do is you put all the blocks on one side and you put all the cut vertices on another side. V1, V2, V3, V4, and V5. And you can make a graph out of this as follows. Whenever a vertex is adjacent with some block, for example, V4, V4 belongs to B4, B5, and B6. So you make V4 adjacent to B4, B5, and B6. And in this way, you can construct a block cut tree of a graph. So all the cut vertices will be on one side, all the blocks will be on the other side, and any cut vertex is adjacent to a block is adjacent to a block when that vertex belongs to that block. Okay, so try to complete this graph on your own. And I will make this part available on the type notes today itself. Okay. Okay, so we will continue from here next lecture tomorrow. And within 5-10 minutes, we should be done with connectivity. And then we will move on to module 2 planarity. Okay. If there are any questions, I'm here for another 10, 15, 20 minutes. So just stay back and we can discuss.
So you said that bipartite graph was a tree?
Right, so that is a good question. I assume everybody is familiar with bipartite graphs and everybody is familiar with trees. So which of the following is true? Every bipartite graph is a tree, or every tree is a bipartite graph.
Every tree is a bipartite graph.
Right, so this is a true statement. And if I at all said this, then that is false. What is a characterization of bipartite? How do you define trees?
Connected acyclic graphs.
Tree is a connected acyclic graph, connected graph with no cycles. Do you know of a similar characterization of bipartite graphs?
Does not have even cycle. Does not have even cycle. No, does not have
Even?
odd cycles.
Odd cycle.
Does not have odd cycles. Right? So actually, let me remove a tree and make it a forest so that we can talk about it more easily. So forest is a graph with no cycles, and bipartite means a graph with no odd cycles. Right? And this implies that every forest is bipartite. And forest just means collection of trees, as in nature. Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir. I meant like for that particular bipartite graph that you just showed us.
Right.
Is that
a tree?
Because you called it a tree somewhere.
Right, right. So why is that a tree? Why is that a tree? That is a tree because of part 3 that you will be proving. If you can find a cycle in that bipartite graph, then you will find a cycle that belongs to 2 blocks in the graph, and that will contradict the statement 3, which you will be proving as an exercise.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay, thanks. So actually, we have ended up discussing things I wanted to discuss in the next lecture. So I think I'm just going to tell everybody to go through this part. Any other questions? Anything else you'd like to discuss? So we are basically done with our connectivity. I'm just going to spend 5-10 minutes in the next lecture, and we are going to move on to planarity for sure. I know I've been saying this for the last 2 lectures, but tomorrow we are definitely moving to planarity. And that's a very important topic. So make sure you are at the lecture in time by 8 o'clock. It's a very beautiful topic in my opinion. So I hope I can show you the beauty of planarity.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks.
So can you just scroll down to the bottom of the notes?
Yes, yes. The very end?
Yes.
Here?
So just the bottom. I just need to copy some stuff. That's all. I don't have a question.
Okay, okay, good. I will be making it available on Moodle anyways, so it will be on Moodle within a few minutes.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome. Hi, Shantini, you are there?
Yes.
Yeah. So, how are you doing?
Fine. You can stop recording.
Sorry? Oh, yes, recording. Sorry. Good. Let me stop recording.